In the summer of 2022, Cannaclusive and Buy Weed from Women came together to shoot a documentary short entitled Flowers for Mom. We gathered sets of mothers and daughters and asked them a series of questions related to cannabis. Their answers, well, nothing we'd ever expect. And now we'd like to share them with you. First, I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves.
I'm Gia Marone.
I'm Ursula Marone. That's my lovely daughter.
That's my lovely mother.
Love you.
Love you back.
Tell us about the first time you smoked a blunt or indulged in cannabis.
I was 14 years old the first time that I smoked cannabis. I was a freshman in high school. Don't bingo me, you weren't there when I had it. I was right outside my guidance counselor's office.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It was okay. It was fine. I turned out fine. Now, he didn't think I would turn out fine. And he saw me doing it, and he said, "You're not going to amount to anything."
Look at you now.
Exactly.
Okay.
See, cannabis did this.
My name's Nancy Austin, and I'm 77.
I'm Ilana Frankel, and I'm 53.
Can you tell me about the first time you consumed cannabis? Ilana, you can go first.
I can go first. The first time I consumed cannabis was in high school with a girlfriend and the guy I actually ended up going to prom with. We spent, I would say, 2 hours giggling under the dining room table and then went home.
I was in high school and it was my first time with a girlfriend, and she introduced me to it, and the first time I just fell in love with the feeling that I had. And
You thought it was a cigarette.
I actually thought it was a cigarette, and I didn't know what it was.
You know, for me, I grew up around cannabis. From my dad growing and selling in the early music industry days, and being renowned for that, to my grandmother, who has, you know, always referred to the plant as holy. That was the way we referred to it, and it was just a part of our wellness, a part of, you know, our maneuvering. And for me, it was so normalized that I honestly didn't smoke until I was about 19 years old.
So when I started consuming at home, we lived in a house, and we had a basement, and I would buy incense from the guys up the street on White Plains Road. I'd go into the basement when my grandmother was asleep, and I would light incense on my walk down to the basement and into the bathroom, where I would put an incense in the bathroom, and then she would always be like, "What are you doing down there?" I'm like, "Nothing, doing laundry." I had the cleanest clothes. I would wash, she said, "You wash one piece of panty?" And I'm like, "Yes," because I had to go to the basement.
I remember the first time I had an edible. My friends had made cookies, and they definitely did not know how strong they were. So I had a very small piece of one, and I ended up coming home really, really stoned. And I was like trying to sneak upstairs, and then my family, my parents and my grandparents were downstairs, and they were like, "Oh, Ashley, you're home. Like, come say hello to everybody." So I went over. My eyes were definitely red, and they were like, "What's going on? Like, did something happen?" And I just started crying on cue. I was like, "I'm just so sad."
Yeah. But I couldn't believe that you and Dad would not think, if I was with Uncle Freddie, who roller skated in his house and built the Starship Enterprise in his loft, like, would I not have been high with him?
No, I didn't think you would be higher than him.
Mom.
But knowing Freddie, absolutely. You're right, knowing Freddie. And I guess what happened is we really needed someone to drive you to school.
My memory is not all that great right now, but the first time that I can recall was around, I was 17 or 18. It was the thing that the group that I was hanging out with was doing, and they wanted me to try it, and that was the first time. I feel different emotions. I use it, I smoke because it provides a feeling of being able to relax. I become a lot more self-reflective when I smoke. So it's more a feeling of comfort and ease and relaxation. And also like letting down my hair a little bit and being a little edgy. So I enjoy that.
My parents were very non-traditional. I had dreads when I was 7 years old on through high school. My dad was Rastafarian, and so my parents always believed everything that we need comes from this earth. So cannabis was just a part of our lifestyle and our daily living. As Kika said, my mom references it as holy. And so they've always dug in deep in early days, as I've done with all of my children. I have 3 girls, into the essence of, you know, the fact that this is a healing plant, and we've never looked at it any other way.
What's a hot box? When you smoke in a car
Yeah.
or in an enclosed space and
Yeah.
the smoke fills and everybody's
And
kind of...
everybody's high. I used to do that a lot when I was in high school, right after school. So
Oh, really?
my friend used to do that, and so we just drive around town, and you know, we go home and just start eating munchies.
What's your most favorite thing to eat when you're high?
I love ice cream. I'm usually not a sweets person, but I like something cold and sweet when I'm stoned, or like strawberries with cream,
Yeah.
something like that.
I would definitely go for Cheetos and my very hot Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
How do you like to indulge?
I love tea. Oh my goodness. So as a former cigarette smoker, I'm not a fan of smoking anymore, anything. And so that's even through vapes. Now I have done that a few times, but if I'm going to consume, I prefer gummies. I love tea. I had no idea that cannabis tea would be as good as it is. And quite honestly, I'm surprised by it. I had never been introduced to cannabis in that way. But now it makes sense. It's an herb. You know, teas are herbs. And I love that. And so you give me a nice cup of tea at night, that's a peaceful sleep.
A drinking kind of person, smoking, I just choke all the time, and I don't like it. It's like, I don't know what I don't think I'm technically supposed to smoke. So yeah, but I'll take a puff or two.
So basically, for my mom, who used during chemo, uses it for sleep, I don't want her to consume high THC. I don't want her to, she's not necessarily in it for the euphoria. She's not necessarily in it for recreational use. It's a very specific need state, sleep. And so I would prefer for her to try shake, which is the sort of leftover bits that you can strain out from from the plant, and it seems to be lesser THC, so that it's not as potent, but does the trick for her. It gives her what she needs without making her feel out of control. The psychoactive effects aren't as strong, and she's able to remain calm and get what she needs from it.
When I first started smoking cannabis, again at 31, I didn't use it consistently. It was, I tried it, I liked it, I had it here and there, but I wasn't smoking consistently. And then I was diagnosed with a really rare autoimmune disease in 2013, and cannabis, I started smoking more on a consistent basis. Not understanding that, to be honest, I was in a deep depression state, and I was using cannabis, and you can use cannabis in a good way, and you can use cannabis in not such a good way. And for me, I was not using it in a good way. That was good for me. I was using it to, not be present. that's exactly that's what I was doing. And I knew that I was using it in that way, but I felt like that's what I needed at the moment.
On my dad's side, everybody's a pothead, so this isn't even nothing different. I feel like more, I don't even think like on your side, but society I feel like would have more to say, but it's like, who really cares at the end of the day? As long as my mom is cool with it, like, that's the only opinion that really matters to me.
I come from a very bougie Caribbean family, and cannabis was not cool at all. I mean, I was working and productive, so she never really gave me too much grief, but she did not care for it at all. My mom didn't care. She was like, oh, as long as you do your stuff, you know, take care of business, it's fine.
So you have not introduced your mom to cannabis yet?
I have, and I've tried to introduce it to her, especially since it, you know, confessing to her that I was going to work in the industry and all the benefits and medicinal benefits of it. Explaining it to her at this age versus when I was younger, vastly different, because my knowledge of it is so different. And so when I've tried to explain it to her, she was under the impression that her healthcare provider would drop her and she would not receive any more medical benefits if cannabis was found in her bloodstream.
I had an experience where I had sciatica, I had pain in my back, and she said, I have something for you. I have tea, or I have this pad for the back. I'm saying, if I go to the doctor and they see all this weed in my system, they're going to know that I'm getting high on stuff. She said, it's not that way. It took me a long time to really understand the weed business.
How has cannabis contributed to your mother-daughter relationship?
Oh, I think that it definitely had made it stronger. I think having my child do what I love to do, I think just made it even of a greater bond together.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to have difficult conversations too sometimes when you're stoned, and there's that, I don't know, sharing aspect and like being open with each other and doing silly things together that we probably wouldn't do otherwise, or like just laughing a whole lot, and I feel like that's also brought us closer
I think
together.
definitely we have talked about difficult subjects together during that time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you hang out with a lot of canna moms?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're not
Everyone's a canna mom that I hang out with. Every one of them are a canna mom.
And how do you indulge?
All of the ways. We ride all the rides.
I actually have a girlfriend from high school that we used to hang out together, and she's usually would be the one telling me, oh listen, so-and-so is selling brownies or edibles. And so yeah, I haven't gotten together and done anything together with her, but I know one mom. But I would love to know other ones.
And me.
And yes, and you.
I'm also a mom.
If you don't mind, can you tell us a bit about your operation and recovery?
Sure. I had what's the name of the operation? What's the
You had stage 4 ovarian cancer.
Stage 4 ovarian cancer, which meant that it had gone to different areas. And fortunately for me, the other areas on my diaphragm and my liver were on the outside. So I had a complete hysterectomy, and the area on the diaphragm and the liver were just resected. And I didn't, they thought they got it all, and I had to go through chemo. It was, when I got home and when I had to go through chemo, the medical marijuana helped me enormously. I took all the medications they gave me, but not once did I get nauseous. and it was over a period of time, and I felt very fortunate that I could have something that helped me medically, that made me feel comfortable, and it was good and healthy for me.
So I had a lot of anxiety from very early on. When I was 13, my dad was killed. He owned a record store in the Bronx. He came home from work one night and somebody shot him in the head in the basement of his building. And as good Caribbean families, we didn't talk about it. It was just like, okay, let's take care of things that need to be taken care of, and that was that. So I had an incredible amount of anxiety from that point on. And when I started using cannabis, just friends, in college turning you on. And I just felt so calm. And I'm like, but my head was always alert. So I was just like, okay, I just feel really good. And I remember going to a doctor for some other stuff. I had thyroid disease, so I always have to go to the doctor. And I was telling this doctor, she's had really cool vibes. And I said to her, I said, listen, I just need something to help calm me down. And under my breath, I said, because how much weed can I smoke, right? And she said, are you using cannabis? And I'm like, I am. And she said these words to me. She goes, oh, so you're self-medicating? And I was like, okay, yeah. And I've never seen her, I haven't seen her in years. And I promise you that her giving me that language to say that I was taking care of myself was a game changer for me. Because I was just like, that I'm taking care of myself. And no one could tell me anything after that. And I started consuming around 18, like regularly. And this was maybe around 24, 25 years old that I ran into this wacky doctor who told me that I was taking care of myself by using cannabis. And I was like, oh, it's on.
My mother had a drink that healed Kika from asthma when she was young called Gorilla Life. This is the offspring. Gorilla RX is the offspring. To Gorilla Life. It's a chlorophyll water made from the alfalfa plant. And I remember she would have these asthma attacks, but then when we would go to the hospital, we couldn't leave after her breathing was in order because our oxygen levels weren't high enough. So we were staying weeks at a time in Children's Hospital. And as I said, my parents are about alternative health. So one day my mom came into the hospital room with a green mason jar. And I'm like, Mom, she's not gonna drink this. And I tasted it and it was so good. She sweetened it with honey and put lemon in it. We always call it Heaven's Lemonade. And it was that drink within that year, we changed our eating habits and changed the dairy. But whenever that breathing issue would come on, we would give her this drink.
I had a wonderful experience. I don't think it had anything to do with marijuana. When I came out...
Wait. That was wonderful. What was wonderful?
When
there was nothing wonderful about that experience.
For the people outside, it was not wonderful, but I did flatline, and I was holding on to daughter's hands, and I said, I'm tired and I want to go to sleep, and I let go of the hands, and apparently I flatlined, and then there was code blue, and everybody who was there was upset about it. I wasn't. It was just fine for me because I had the most relaxed and peaceful moment that I've ever experienced in my life.
How has, you seem like you want to respond to that.
Pretty sure that had to do with the marijuana, but go on.
What's your response to that? That's like a really, as a daughter, what's your response to that?
So yes, she's told me that part of the story, that she had that peaceful experience and that she is not afraid of death because of it, because there was that sense of calm and peace as she flatlined. I will say that I think that coming out of it and hearing it and using medical marijuana helped you process and deal with it?
Addiction's been in my family in many forms. And I'm glad that we're talking about it now, but my family's been dealing with it for many, many years. I think that has made me pro-patient all the way. And I don't necessarily love the advancements that are happening in our medical space, but I am pro-patient. I think the fact that that doctor told me that I was self-medicating because I needed to sleep, that's not part of the program, you know, but I was self-medicating. And my mom's pain, what were they gonna do if they didn't give her cannabis? They were gonna just let her suffer, you know? So she could not take anything beyond a Tylenol because her kidneys couldn't process it. What were they gonna do for her? You know, no one ever had the conversation about cannabis for her. And I think that that's a huge disservice, you know? And in our communities, I mean, what are you gonna do for people? You're just not gonna look at something because you don't get it? It's just sad. And listen, I remember as my mom was really trying to medicate herself in not a way that she should have, what are you pushing people towards? Like my mother went in a walker to try and get something that she didn't need to get because she was dealing with pain. I mean, honestly, what are we pushing people to if we are not having that cannabis conversation?
As a black mother who has seen too many sons and daughters be killed by the war on drugs, be incarcerated, too many children who don't have mothers and fathers in the home, the bigger fight and obligation, we'll set all that woman stuff aside, has been that as a black woman that wants to see our family survive, that cannabis is really a means. It provides enough revenue for me to feed my children and also reinvest in my community. And so it has been with that energy that I move, maybe more from the black mama side of things, that it's time to take care of our community. And I believe that we have our just due on this cannabis side. And so I've reached more to that side of the energy than the struggle that we have or the hardships that we have.
It's medicine, and it should be used as such, in my opinion. I would teach them that it should not be abused. And anything that you go into that is medicine should be done in a sacred way.
My own journey has been doing the research, finding out the benefits, even the history of the plant, socially, like just everything about it. I feel like people should learn more about marijuana, the benefits. It's a spiritual plant. It's been spiritual for so many cultures, for so many years. And it's like, we all gotta break the stigma. Who really cares at the end of the day? As long as my mom is cool with it, like, that's the only opinion that really matters to me.